Hi everybody, today I'm going to work on making another triple tier slider. So this is a sample I've made using the unicorn papers, and you pull this tab and you've got 1, 2, 3 images that you can use. You could use photos as well, and then there's a pocket here behind the slider. You could put 2 images on that, and I've just popped a little tag in there, and I've put this on quite sturdy. I think it's about 160 GSM just to support that. So that's one in the unicorn theme. Here's another one that could be a floating triple slider, so that just pulls out. This is made using the unicorn journal papers, just to get those lovely soft colours, and I'm going to use this in my photo book that I'm making for my little granddaughter, and I'm going to place images on both sides and just tuck that one into a pocket, and I'll decorate it according to the page that it's going on. And here's one in the steampunk theme. So I've got a pocket in front with a whole pile of different bits and pieces of ephemera, and I've added a little bit of embossing around the outside of that one there, and then you pull that up and you've got the 3 different layers. I've added some stamps from the ephemera kit, one of the tabs, and with this one I've added some glossy accents to the clock dial, and that one will get glued to a page, and then you'll be able to tuck something in behind it there. And you could also make another tag little slot here to tuck something in as well if you wanted. So that's the steampunk theme. So I'm going to make another one, and this time I'm going to use some of the dragonfly papers. This is from the dragonfly scrapbook set. So let me just quickly trim off the white. This is just printed on A4 digital paper, and I think it's 120 GSM, so it's just a little bit thicker than copyweight paper. And you don't need it to be terribly thick, but just a bit thicker than the copyweight because it's not going to hold its shape. For the top piece in the slider, I have backed it on the back just because the top piece hasn't got any, it needs to have a little bit of extra weight on it, so I've just backed that with you could back it with anything if you're going to tuck it into a journal, but if you're going to have it as a floating pocket like this one, I've backed it in a nice paper so that it's going to be a nice background. So that's the only one that I've made a bit thicker, because that's the one that you're going to be pulling up and down, and you don't want that to be too flimsy. Okay, so I've got my papers. Now I want to decide the bottom layer. I think I'll have this as the bottom layer, that is the middle, and this is the top. So I want to cut my base piece at 4.5 by 11 3/8, and I want this word, the dragonfly word, to be on it. So I'm going to take this top part here. So 4.5, and I think with this trimmed it would be close enough to 11 3/8. Let me see, 10, 11, and 1, 2, 3/8. Exactly. Okay, so I don't need to trim that anymore. That's the base piece. For the middle piece, I want it to be 3.5 by 10 1/4. So I'm going to try and have these whole dragonflies there. So I want 3.5 by 10 1/4. 10 1/4, and what I might might do is just take a little bit off this side and then measure it, so I try and keep the whole dragonfly, so 10.25. Take a little bit more off that side. The end pieces will end up being the front and back, and that's going to be the centre, so 10.25. That way I get the whole dragonfly. And then for the top piece I need a 3x3 piece. Hopefully this is wide enough. It is. So I'm going to cut 2 squares of this to be the top piece. I'll have, actually if I just cut it 6 inches, make life easier. Cut it at 6 inches and I'll fold that in half to be the top piece. Alright. So let's get this one done. So I'm going to fold this one in half. And then I'm going to use glue stick and art glitter glue to make it stay closed. As I said, this one will get the most use, so you don't want it to be coming unglued. Okay, so that's the top piece done. Now for the base piece, the biggest piece, let me just put the lid in my glue. For the base piece, I'm going to score it at 3 3/4. This might not be exactly a third because I'm adjusting someone else's sizes. So I'm going to score it at 3 3/4. I'm just going to fold that on that score line, and then this other part should fold in. If that folds in, I might just roughly score it. Might just take a sliver off that. So that's ended up at 11 1/4. So if I fold that in now, perfect. So that's my base piece, and then my middle piece, I'm going to score this at 3 3/8. 3 3/8. And just check to see whether that's going to have any overhang. Again, I'm just going to take a tiny sliver off it. I actually did these measurements on another scoreboard, and it's just the tiniest bit different in measurement. Let me just trim that off. Okay. So you want that to be able to fold in. So it's just before the score line so that it can fold in neatly. So that's my top piece, that's my middle piece, sorry, my bottom piece, my middle piece, and the top piece is how that will work. Alright, let me just pop this away. Okay, so now on the bottom piece, on this base piece, I want to flip it over on this edge. So I want this piece to be on the front, and so I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to rule a line horizontally, 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom. Let me just grab a pencil and I'll mark that. Here we go. So 1/2 inch from the top and 1 1/4 from the bottom. Sorry, 1/2 inch from the top and 1 1/4 from the bottom. So I'll just rule those lines. I'll use a darker pencil so you can see. And then I'm going to turn it back this way, so this part's going to be the bottom, and I'm going to rule vertical lines between these two lines, 1/2 inch in from both ends. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. These lines are going to be the sliding tracks. So now I'm going to grab my cutting tool and I'm just going to cut a slot out either side of the line just to make a small slot. On both of those lines. You want to make sure, so for example here, a little bit of paper is torn off. You want to make sure these lines are really nice and straight. And I haven't done a very good job there. I'm just going to straighten that up because I want, this is the sliding track and I don't want anything to get hooked or catch in that. So the important thing is that when you put the slider mechanism in, that's a smooth track running up along there. So that's the base card. I'm going to do the same thing to the middle card. And I'm going to have that as the front. Which one do I want? Yeah, I'll have that as the front. So again, on this side, I'm going to get my ruler and I'm going, for the middle part, I'm going to rule horizontal lines 1/4 inch from the top and the bottom. So there's my 1/4 inch line. And then my horizontal lines, I'm going to do these 3/4 inch from both sides. So 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch. And do the same thing, just cut out either side of those lines. It wasn't a very straight line, but we'll fix it here. There's the top, base, the middle and the top. I also need a 1/2 inch strip of paper and I'm going to trim that from here. This is going to be the part that's the sliding mechanism. Let's see if that's enough for both. So open this back up. This is going to just weave under and around that slot. and I want this to wrap around, but I don't want it to be tight, so I've wrapped it tightly there. I'm just going to scooch it across a little bit, just so I've got a little bit of room there. And trim that off. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the top of this bit and on the back of this bit at the top as well. Just want to be careful that you don't get any glue onto this base card here, because that will stop it from sliding. So that's my sliding mechanism. It should be loose enough that it's going to slide up and down. That's what we want. And the same on this base piece. Don't know that that's going to be, yeah, that'll be long enough. So the same here. Slide it, oops, through that and around. Fold and crease, scooch it across, and then fold that across as well. And I'm just leaving just enough of an overlap so that I can glue it down. Again, it's going to slide up and down nice and easily. Okay, so now we want to take our top piece. So that's how this is going to go together. This is going to be, this is the middle, that's the big part, that's the base, this is the middle, and that's my top. And I want my top piece, that's going to be the front. So what it's going to do, this is going to fold inside, this is going to glue onto that and slide up, actually, hang on, yeah. So my front can be either that or that. I think I want that as my front. In which case, basically just get your card in position and know that it's going to slide the right way. So I'm going to glue this piece onto this tab, and I'm going to do that just so that I line it up so I can have it completely hidden, or I can have it just showing. I'm going to have mine completely hidden. So I'm going to slide this piece all the way down to the bottom of the tracks and make sure it's even. You can use double-sided tape for this. I'm just going to use art glitter glue. Again, don't have too much glue so that it gets on any other part of the mechanism. I'm going to line this and center it either side of these lines and align it with the top. Make sure this is all the way at the bottom, and I'm just going to glue that down so that that piece is now going to slide up and out. And then I'm going to put glue all the way along these two middle panels and up this left hand side to seal this piece off. So keeping my card up and out of the way, I'm going to fold the bottom piece over first, make sure that that's nicely lined up. And seal that in, and then fold my top piece across. I'm just making sure that the glue doesn't hit this card, and line that up. Okay, so that's the top piece. Just make sure that's free floating in there. And then the same exact situation here. I want this to be my front, and this is the front of these two cards. Again, I want to, actually going to, well, it's not sticking. I'll show you my problem. This part hasn't come quite to the edge, and this is sticking slightly here. So all I'm going to do, you won't see this part, I'm just going to trim a little bit off this. And re-glue that part because it just was a little bit too, the glue was a little bit too wide of the mark. So keep the glue right on the very edge. Keep that up and out of the way, and we'll try that again. Just make sure that mechanism is going to slide. Okay. Alright, so for this piece, again, that's my front. And that's my front. I want to do the same thing. I want to push this slot all the way down to the bottom. Just want to make sure this is, I haven't creased this one exactly here. Make sure that when that folds across, so for this one here, I want to place this as the front. Just double check that you've got the front on the front. Again, I'm going to place this so that it's lined up with the top and centered here. And then I'm going to push this all the way down to the bottom, add my glue on here. So line this up and center it, and then place that on. And then this is going to glue onto there. What I might do for this one is I'm going to glue it differently and see if that works any better. I'm going to glue this middle panel first and fold that down, line that up. And then get this card up and out of the way, and I'm going to put the glue on this base here so I can see that I'm not getting it in the way of that track. And down here. Okay, just give that a second to dry. Just make sure it's free floating. That's probably a better way to do it. And then for this top piece, we need a tab. I think we'll do the tab in the yellow. So I'm going to cut out a tab. And I might just quickly ink the edges of that. this into position. So the centre of, to place the tab, I'm just going to line the tab up here. Get my tops even with that, and then that's centred between the 3-inch mark. Make sure that's glued down nicely. I probably should have put that on the front. And then just to quickly add an eyelet. I'm just going to centre that on here. And so there you are. Then you can decorate it as you like. You can add images or words. You can have note paper in here, but that's it. So that's the sliding pocket. And if this is a floating pocket, you could just have it tucked in again to a pocket, and you've got the 2 sides on it. So that's it. I'll bring back the other ones. There's the dragonfly one, the unicorn one, there's a steampunk one, and this one's the unicorn journal paper one. So have a go at those. They're really good fun to make, and thanks for watching.